talking about long-term contracts for starting pitchers, weighing them versus the injury risks. And in the opening cut there, he was talking about how injuries decimated last year's rotation. And Nolan, I don't want to get into last year, but he was very short-sighted in his plan for that rotation. A lot of hoping and wishing for things that never panned out. But no Framber Valdez signed with Detroit, and Valdez himself said the A.J. Hinch connection had a lot to do with it, and $38 million a year doesn't deter things. And Dylan Cease, I don't even know if the Orioles were in play for him. Didn't trade for any of the available guys who were tradable. One of whom was, traded in the division, Sonny Gray, who also, Red Sox also signed Ranger Suarez, who I wanted all along. But either way, so he gave you some of the reasoning behind the risk versus reward. And then late last night, after Maryland beat Iowa, which we'll get to, news came out that the Orioles had signed Chris Bassitt or agreed to a contract with Chris Bassitt pending physical. 37-year-old right-hander right out of Toronto, where he helped get them to the World Series and pitch really well in the playoffs. 1-year deal, $18.5 million, with a $3 million signing bonus, I believe, and then $500K if he makes 27 starts. And, based on his track record, that appears to be a foregone conclusion. That's going to happen because he's hit the post over 30 times, 5 of the last 6 seasons, and for most of his career. Is he the big front of the rotation guy that we had hoped for? No. But is he a pretty strong plan B added to the rest of what you already have? He's a number 3 in a rotation of number 3s, and at best case scenario, a number 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe Rogers was pitching like a number 1, but call me surprised if we see a $1.80 ERA from him throughout the season. But he just adds quality, experience, depth, and reliability to a rotation that definitely lacked that in 2025.
What a difference 24 hours makes, huh?
Yeah.
If you joined us yesterday.
I was ready to burp you on Tuesday.
Oh, man. Well, you should have seen me yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, my.
Oh, man. I mean, we were just reacting to the written quotes on Tuesday afternoon because it was coming down right as we were getting off the air. And me and Cordell, we came in yesterday, ball of fire. We were all just wound up about this. We were lied to. Elias said that they were going to spend the money. They didn't do it. And there you go. Not even 24 hours later, you get Bassett. So obviously, I think the key of what you said there is that what's done is done, right? They missed their mark to get that true number 1 guy, that true front end guy. But once you found yourself in that situation, you're going to be pissed about it. I certainly was. But what do you do from here? Another move was still necessary, right? And I think of the available options left, I had kind of put Bassett up there. Gallen entering the offseason was pretty high on him. And then the more it's gone on, I've kind of faded on him more and more, and we'll see what he ends up signing for. If it ends up being a multi-year deal, I can understand why the Orioles chose a 1 year with Bassett over him for sure. Didn't hate Giolito at all. Didn't hate him, but no. If we're going to compare durability, as you said, Bassett goes to the front of the line. I mean, just once in the last 8 years, he's had an ERA over 4. I mean, that alone right there is something like, hey, sign me up for that. The problem is, and really the only problem I have with the signing is that there is kind of that looming thing with his age. Remember how we talked about Charlie Morton last offseason when they signed him? It's pretty early in the offseason. It was a move that was made, and everyone thought, okay, well, the bigger one's still coming. Well, it never actually happened, and Morton was leaned on pretty heavily. But when they signed Morton, everyone said, hey, look at the last 3 years of this guy. 160 innings, 170, pretty solid, ERA below 4.5 every year. You know what you're getting. He's going to hit the post, raises the floor. You can say the same things about Bassett, and he's getting up there. I trust him. I trust this recent track record. But just like Charlie Morton, there is a bit of mystery here. You just don't know. I mean, at some point, the wheels are going to come off. And in the Orioles case, you just hope it's not 26.
Well, for Bassett, who got hurt late in the season, missed about a month, came back for the playoffs, and pitched well out of the bullpen for Toronto. Morton was kind of flatlining in September for Atlanta. So he had a bad end of the season where Bassett came back and was still pitching at a pretty high level. And you mentioned Giolito. Bassett doesn't have... Giolito's got electrifying, dominant stuff. Bassett's no slappy. Let's not get this twisted here. But Giolito's a guy to go out there and dominate and be, wow, they were watching an impressive performance. But Bassett can give you that level of consistency, 5-6 innings, which is, I guess, is kind of the norm now.
Yep.
The outlier is the 7-8 inning guy as a starting pitcher. But I'm cool with this move. Not that Mike Elias gives a crap what I think or you think or, quite frankly, what anyone listening thinks. But he understood the need after the Alonso signing. I mean, they traded for Kittredge, signed Helsley, which I think is going to be a good move when it's all said and done. Ward for Grayson, and that became questionable because Grayson's upside versus Ward, walkier of a deal. We'll get to that too because they have a lot of pending free agents on this year's team. And then they bring in Alonso, which was a big score for them. And then everything just, all right, now let's go get that number one starter, whether it's via trade or free agency. And it never happened. And then Bassett coming in on the day the pitchers and catchers are working out. I think it's a strong move. Long-term, no. 1-year deal. Trevor Rogers, free agent after this season. Taylor Ward, free agent after this season. And you have a bunch of other guys that have like player options. So this rotation we're going to see, at least the way it looks on paper now, Nolan, on February 12th, it's not going to look this way a year from now. There'll be a lot of different people throwing baseballs for the Orioles. But for this year, the bounce back, get right after a disastrous 25 season, it's an acceptable rotation. Dominant?
We'll see.
Best in the division? But better than last year? Sure. And still puts the onus on the offense to be more productive than they were last year, the bullpen to be more reliable. It's a better team on paper than the one we saw, to trudge off the field at the end of 25. And that's all you can ask for. And they spent a little more dough.
That's what I was going to say. Now the payroll is officially above where it was entering last season, so he can get that monkey off the back or that whole narrative. I think you mentioned bullpen there. I mean, look, this has a secondary effect here where, in my opinion, it pretty much guarantees that Tyler Wells is in the bullpen to start the season. Now, you could have said, well, it's clearly obvious he's got to be in the bullpen. I agree with you, right? We've been harping on that for a while. He's got to go to the pen. But they were in a situation before they signed Bassett where they're one injury away from asking Tyler Wells to be their number 5 starter. Okay, Brandon Young, Cade Povich, they're in the mix, they're around. But Tyler Wells, whether durability concerns or not being a starter, he's actually pitched really well as a starter. So he would be ahead of a Povich and a Brandon Young if there was an injury to replace whoever got hurt. Now your bullpen's really depleted. You already got rid of Cade Stroud. It was maybe suspect to begin with. So I think this move helps the rotation. It helps the bullpen. It just gives you a little breathing room because that was the feeling for me and Cordell yesterday is like, man, they are just up against the wall and one injury could really doom them. Now you're a little more relaxed. Yeah,
and Tyler Wells, you mentioned his success as a starter going into the All-Star break of 23? I believe it was 23. The year they won 101 games. Yeah, the lowest whip in the American League at the All-Star break, wound up getting demoted. Then, the injuries started to rise up. But he's another guy. He's got this moxie, this makeup. Might not have electrifying stuff, but he's got better than average.
Big presence.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dude that's going to be an asset to the team. And, hey, if Helsley falters, maybe he's a guy that helps you at the back end of your high leverage situation.
Well, that's the thing is you need a defined closer, but we've seen what happens when the crap hits the fan with, say, a Craig Kimbrell, right? And now it's, who do we have? At the time, Yennier Cano was your 8th inning guy, and occasionally when Bautista had been down or overworked in years past, it was, okay, Cano can have the save once a week if we're playing all these close games and we really need it. But as he started to get more and more of those opportunities, it just wasn't for him closing. So I think I look at the situation now, Do I want Andrew Kittredge closing a lot of games? No, but he's capable. Tyler Wells, because he's done it quite a while ago, he was a rookie, but he has done it. He's capable. Helsley's still your guy. But if you get in a pinch, you're playing all the 10 games in a row, really no off days, maybe a double header in there because of a rainout, and your bullpen is so taxed, it's good to have a little flexibility.